turning now to the growing mask confusion sweeping the nation. So Philly now lifting its indoor mask mandate 2 weeks after reinstating it. And then you got Los Angeles County now requiring masking on public transportation there.
All right, so you got to know what the policy is, where you're at. But this does come after the Justice Department is appealing the ruling on public transportation after the CDC said that ruling remains necessary for public health. The mandate does. Joining us now to discuss, Republican strategist and host of Political Contested podcast, Jennifer Nassar. Also with us, ambassador with the America First Policy Institute, Newsmax contributor Tom Borelli, alongside Donna Jackson, Director of Membership Development of Project 21 Black Leadership Network. Great to see our panelists on this Friday here. Jen, depending on where you're traveling to, you're going to need to keep a mask handy or you could get rid of it.
I mean, this is so confusing for everyone. And enough with the charade. What we know is that masks actually don't work to stop the spread of COVID. And what actually works is some personal responsibility. Staying home when you don't feel well, covering your mouth, washing your hands, don't touch your face if you've been touching other things. Those are the things that work. This is government interference at its best, and we see it most in these blue states, and they have to stop or they're going to lose all their tourism and all their dollars.
Yeah, and Tom, it's cloth masking, by the way, that seems to be lost on everyone. This was announced a long time ago, even during the beginning phases of this pandemic. But N95 masking, reportedly by health officials, is really the only way to protect yourself and others. N95 masks. Also, they don't make those for children. However, here we are. If you fly into L.A., you've got to mask up. If you fly into Atlanta, the largest airport in the country, you can take your mask off. If you fly to Nashville, you can keep it off. But if you fly to New York, JFK, you got to put it back on. It literally is confusing, and passengers, Americans, don't understand what to do, and they're looking for a universal approach. Your thoughts on this?
Well, Sean, you appropriately pointed out the mask confusion, and let's look at it. It's just another day of chaos under President Biden. They can't get anything straight. If Biden was a baseball player, he would already be in the minor leagues, if not totally out of baseball, because he is striking out on almost every issue, whether it be internationally, whether it be domestically. Look, the CDC is a mess in itself. We know on a population level, meaning the state levels, masks do not work. No reduction in infection rates, but yet they keep repeating the same thing that doesn't work. This, in the long run, what's most concerning to me is that it is going to permanently damage the reputation of the CDC and federal health scientists. So God forbid another health emergency comes, no one's going to believe them.
Once you lose trust, it is hard to gain it back. But I go back to what the president's initial response was at the start of this week. Once that ruling came out that you can take off the masks, President Biden was asked about it, and he said, Donna, it's up to the individual. Now, that's, of course, different than what his administration is saying now. They say, listen to the CDC. We advise wearing masks on planes. But what did you make of the president's initial response?
Well, his initial response is what it should have been all along. Listen, these states that had the strictest mask requirements also had the highest cases, even during the height of the pandemic. And we wouldn't need masks in public transportation places if energy wasn't so high. So this president has no clear direction, and the CDC has been politicized under his reign. So there's no trust, not in this administration or the CDC, to make the best guidance for the American people. So they should be the ones choosing what they want to follow.
Yeah, it has been a journey. July 4th, you don't have to wear the mask anymore. Dr. Rochelle Walensky came out, and this was the whole thing, and then it went back into effect, and then you had to wear 2 masks, and then the cloth mask doesn't work. It's N95 mask. It just has gone on, and finally there's a federal judge in Florida, which many are pointing out she was a Trump-appointed judge. She overrules it, deeming it essentially unconstitutional. CDC does not have that authority. But here's what Dr. Anthony Fauci says about the courts and public health matters.
This is a public health issue. And for a court to come in, and if you look at the rationale for that, it really is not particularly firm. And we are concerned about that, about courts getting involved in things that are unequivocally public health decisions. I mean, this is a CDC issue.
But Jennifer Nassor, Fauci and other prominent Democrats didn't say much when the courts ruled in favor of forcing Biden's federal vaccine mandate, which is still in place.
You know, it's very interesting. It is, the rhetoric from the left consistently that actually does not go along with what the rest of us know. So look, it's the vaccine mandate that was okay in a court, but a court strikes down the mask mandate, and that's not okay. If we look back over history, and the left has this all the time, if we look at how the courts mattered in Roe v. Wade, how the courts mattered in gay marriage decisions, how the courts mattered in the vaccine, how courts matter all the time, and now suddenly they don't matter. They really need to watch what they say, because most of us who remember history remember what happened in courts. That's number one. Number two, there's a separation of power on purpose, so that way the courts can make sure that the government, that the legislative and executive branches are not overstepping their bounds. And that's what happened here.
Yeah. The CDC also, of course, recommending the lifting of Title 42 at our southern border. That was a public health policy put in place, and yet recommending that Americans wear masks aboard an airplane. All right, let me pivot, though. Former President Barack Obama was weighing in on sort of this COVID confusion and social media. He was saying this at a speech at Stanford. Take a listen.
Safe, effective vaccines in record time is an unbelievable achievement. Around 1 in 5 Americans is still willing to put themselves at risk and put their families at risk rather than get vaccinated. People are dying because of misinformation.
All right. Tom, your thoughts on that?
Well, what I see former President Obama doing, he's really pushing for censorship. He likes the idea of controlling information. Isn't it interesting? With Biden's poll numbers falling like a rock, 33% in Quinnipiac poll approval, he's trying to silence debate. I wonder why, because it's Joe Biden who's president. Obama knew he wasn't fit to be president, so the only way they could try to save themselves at the election going forward, the midterm election coming up in November, is to try to silence debate, trying to send a message to Facebook and Twitter, keep dissent quiet because we're losing.
All right, Donna Jackson, Tom Borelli, Jennifer Nassor, we appreciate you weighing in on this. Enjoy your weekend.